Welcome back to the shop. This is a updated video on the jet block gasket. This is for the TMX, the Mikuni TMX carburetor. This is really common carburetor for the YZ125, the KTM 125 and 150 two-strokes throughout the years. It's a very popular carburetor. I already made a video showing how to change that, but I will be inserting that part of the video in this video a little bit later. I have some updated information for you guys. I'm going to start like this for you guys that haven't seen that video. If your bike starts running rich out of nowhere and you played with the jetting a little bit, but you just can't seem to clean up that richness, the first thing you're going to want to question is your reed pedals. Are they really aged and old? They might look fine, they might not be chipped, they might not be frayed away, but they get fatigued after a while, so they open up a little bit too easily. They've lost their tension. Try some new reed pedals. If they're really old, they've been in there a long time, that might clean up your issue. If that doesn't clean up the issue, the next thing I'm going to suggest is replacing the jet block gasket. If you don't know how to replace your reed pedals, I'll provide a link down in the description showing you how to replace your reed pedals on these YZ125s. It's going to be the same thing for the KTMs. However, most of your KTMs come with V-Force reeds, but pretty much the same stuff. But the jet block gasket is this little gasket right here, and I'm going to show you an insert from the previous video how to replace that in this video. You can get it from JD Jetting. There's a part number for it right there. They have the, I guess you can call it a more robust or updated version of it. It's kind of got like a little piece of metal in the middle of it, wrapped with rubber, so it's not supposed to deform quite as quickly. Or you can get it right from Mikuni itself, and it's just the original rubber one. Either way, it's going to be fine. And then lastly, if you replace the jet block gasket and that still did not fix your rich running condition, unfortunately what I've found out through my wife's bike here, so you might just need a whole new carburetor. I'm not even kidding you. I'll show you in a few minutes, but it wears out, the needle wears out the atomizer after a while. That's the little hole in the middle of the carburetor the needle slides into. And on these carburetors, you can't replace that atomizer. I have experience with some 4-strokes where that has worn out and you can just replace it. You can pop it out, pop a new one in. But this brass little hole that the needle goes into is pressed into these carburetors, and there's no replacing it. You actually have to replace the whole carburetor. Before we get to that, let me go ahead and show you the insert from the previous video where I replaced the jet block gasket, to show you guys how to do that if you need some instruction on that. For you guys that have already seen that, right here I will put the time stamp of the video. Just fast forward to that time stamp and we'll get right to the carburetor part, because you already seen all the other stuff. So here's the insert from the previous video, and then I'll be right back with the carburetor work. So let me go ahead and get this one off real quick. What I'm going to do is I'm going to swivel the subframe up to get the carburetor off. So I have to take the lower subframe bolts off, the silencer off, the seat off, and loosen that clamp up right there, and then I can swivel the subframe up, and that's going to give us more access to the carburetor. So let me go ahead and do that. Okay. While I have this subframe up like this, I'm going to go ahead and clean this. Get this all cleaned up, so that way when we go to slide it back on the carburetor later, none of this dirt that's around it will get into the carburetor. Now's the best time to clean it, because any dirt that falls off will fall out down here instead of going up into the intake boot. Make sure it's clean in there. Alright. By the way, this bike currently has 317 hours on it now. I started noticing it running a little bit richer right around the 300 hour mark. Okay, to get this carburetor off, it's going to be pretty much about the same steps for your KTMs. I pretty much do it the same way. Except on the KTM, it can sometimes make it easier to remove that engine mount that's right here. Gonna loosen up this clamp right here. Alright, I'm going to take the throttle cable and loosen it all the way up. That's going to allow me to spin the carburetor all the way towards me, so I can get the top of the carburetor off. There we go. And it's going to take a Phillips. Yeah, like I said, the bike has about 317 hours on it, and it was jetted perfectly, and nothing's changed. No fuel has changed. Oh, look at that. Everything's been the same. It's just started to slowly run a little bit richer. Holy cow, I'm dropping everything. They're richer. I kind of figured this is probably what it is. We're probably going to find it all swollen up and just old. Alright, slide that right on out of there. There we go, and I'll just set that off to the side over here. Now I should be able to just grab the carburetor, pop it up off there, and work it out of here. Let's see, what's the best route to get this thing out? Let's see. There we go. And the carburetor is out of there. And same thing, I'm going to take a little bit of time here and just clean up the intake boot where it connects to the reeds, get the dirt off of it, so when we go to slide the carburetor back on, none of that stuff finds its way up into the intake track. Okay, gave the carburetor a little bit of an external cleaning, just gave it like a little blow job and get off the dirt. You might want to get one of these base gaskets also, or the float bowl gasket, just in case. I mean, they are supposed to be reusable, but you know, things happen. Sometimes they get old and they don't reseal again. So let's go ahead and take this thing apart. All right. These things. Yeah. I believe this carburetor right here is a virgin. 317 hours, and we've had this bike since it was pretty much new, and I don't think I've ever had the bottom of this carburetor off. But hey, it's all good. It's been a very good bike, reliable. Original crank. We have had to replace the cylinder on it. You know, my wife rides it, so she doesn't hammer on it too hard, but we have replaced the crank. We replaced the cylinder on it, and that's been it. Cylinder and pistons, and crank's lasted. Yeah, I think I'm going to use the new gasket. This thing's looking, it's kind of seen its better days, I think. Okay, so now that we have that off, I'm just going to slide this little piece that just slides, and I'm going to slide it off. Okay, we need to remove the float, so there's another Phillips right here. There we go. And just grab the whole float. There's a needle on the float right there, and it clips onto that tab. We'll worry about that when it's time to put it back together. And of course, that little metal piece that went right through the middle of the float right here. Okay, so now we have to remove these two Torx. The kit comes with the Torx that you're going to need. Most people already have these at home anyway, but here, I'm not going to fuss with this Ziploc bag. There we go. Let's see if I can do it with just a screwdriver Torx. Oh yeah, they're not that tight. There's one of them. Appears they had red Loctite on it. I can see some red thread locker on it. That's okay, we'll put some red stuck nuts on it when we're done here. Okay, we have them two Torx screws out. Flip it up right here, and you'll see this little thing kind of, let's flip it upside down. It should just fall right out. There we go. There's the gasket. Yeah, it's definitely in bad shape. Let me show you. First, let me pull the new one out of the bag. Show you what that looks like. Let me get the new one out of the bag here. Comes with these. The kit comes with these two little O-rings right here too. And these are for this right here, in case you need it, but we don't need them. This one's sealing just fine. But anyway, this is the shape of the new one. Right? Look at the old one there. Look right there. You see that right there? It's all like stretched out and just, yeah, it's in bad shape. Here you go. Put it like that so you can see. There's the new one right here. There's the old one. Clearly you can see it was leaking by. The fuel that goes through here was most likely finding its way up into here and making it run rich. So let's go ahead and pull this off of here. There we go. Let me clean this up. Not much to clean up here, but let me just make sure it's nice and clean. Okay, now when you go to put the new one on, it doesn't really want to stay on there on its own. See, it just falls right off. So let me take the gloves off here. I'm going to just use a little bit of grease and hold it on there. Don't worry, the fuel's going to clean off any grease that oh man, I grabbed way too big of a clump there. But yeah, don't worry, the fuel's going to clean off any of that grease. See, that's going to hold it for us. Now let me wipe up the excess grease. There you go. It's all cleaned up, and now it stays put. So let's go ahead and install it back in the carburetor. Alright, let's see. Make sure it's still in put. Yes, it is. There it is. Okay, I need to hold that down. I'm going to hold down my two fingers here. Flip the carburetor around because we got to put them two torque screws back in place. Need to open up my stuck nuts here. Want to put the smallest dab I can. That was a little bit too much, so I'm just going to spread it to the other one here. There we go. Smallest dab of the red stuff. Trying to work with one hand here because the other hand's holding that together. Okay. Put the first one in, but I'm just gonna lightly seat it. I need to get the other one in first. Or yeah. You get the other one in before I tighten them up. We'll be starting up in a few minutes and see how this works out. Of course, the real test will be when we get it out to the track this weekend, but still got to test it at home. Make sure everything's good. Last thing I want is to show up at the track and it not work right. Okay. Don't want to strip it out. Just put it pretty tight. I remember how tight they came off, so I'm kind of trying to match that. Alright, let me double check. There you go, because usually these parts you really can't replace them. You got to buy a whole new carburetor if you mess it up. So there it is. This part's back together. Okay, let's get the float bowl back in here. Let's flip the carburetor this way for now. Okay, you have the floats, and you have this little needle. See that little metal tab right or hanger? Just clip that right here, like such. I'm just gonna let it hang like that. Let's see. I'm gonna try to get this on camera the best I can. Slide it right back in there. Booyah! And I'll take this. Put that right there. Now all we gotta do is replace that little Phillips. Let me see if I can set that there gently. Yes. Again, just a small dab of this red stuff, because remember, that's some strong stuff. You can even use blue on it, but I'm going to use red. Alright. Okay, go ahead and put this piece back down. There we go. And I know I said I was going to use the new gasket, but I'm actually going to try to reuse this old one first. If it doesn't seal and it leaks, then I'll go back in and put the new one. Reason being is because I do know I need a new one for my 125, and I was hoping to use that for mine. But alright, let me go ahead and slide this on. You got to be careful when you slide that on. You want to make sure this tube right here goes in between the float and that jet tower without actually disturbing the float. Okay. Alright, let me get these 3 Phillips screws back on and we'll go ahead and put her back on the bike. Okay. Let's go bolt her on and start her up. Alright, feed her back in here. One hose at a time. Huh. Should I put the carburetor in first and feed the hoses through there? Let's see. Yeah, I just went ahead and put the carburetor hoses through that first. Let's see if I can get it in. Voila. Alright. Alright, let me go ahead and fish all these hoses down here where they're supposed to go. Booyah. Got all the hoses ran where they're supposed to go. Now we have to get the throttle slide in there. It's so funny, this bike has 317 hours. Usually I find the throttle slide's worn out, but this one's not. She needs to start using that throttle a little bit more. Alright, let's twist it towards us here. Put this out of the way. If the needle doesn't want to just fall in its seat like it's doing right here, just set the carburetor straight up and down. Typically they'll fall in then. There it goes. Now I'll turn it back towards me. Spin this way and put them 2 Phillips screws back in. Number 1. And number 2. Alright, now spin the carburetor back up right and work that throttle cable. Oop, one right there. Twist that throttle cable back into the carburetor. Alright. Lock it back in. Slide the rubber boot back down over it. Alright. Go ahead and connect that up before any dirt gets in there. I might as well turn the gas on now. Let it sit there and fill up the float bowl while I finish tightening up the carburetor. Let me center it out in that little tab on the front side where it matches up to the intake boot. Alright, got that centered out well. So I'll go ahead and tighten this clamp up. There we go. And so far I don't see the gasket here leaking anything, so that's good. I was able to reuse that gasket, which is really nice because the one on my 125 is actually leaving a little wet spot right here. I was hoping maybe I could use it for mine. Okay. Check the throttle. Yep, sounds good. Okay, got the boot fully on the carburetor here, so let me go ahead and tighten this side up. There we go. Okay, all I gotta do now is put the lower subframe bolts back in, put the silencer back on over here, that number plate back on the seat, and then we'll give her a test fire. I'll be right back. Okay, she's all back together. Let me go ahead and fire her up, warm her up, and let's just see how she runs. Let me just warm her up a little bit, clean her out, and then we're going to check her out. I'll be right back. Okay, got her fully warmed up. Let's start her up. Check her out. Seems to be doing good. Okay, so there you have it. That's how you change your jet block gasket. Now, your reeds are in good shape. You replace the jet block gasket, and it still seems to be running a little rich. Well, that's what happened with this bike right here. I replaced it, and in the shop, as you saw in the video, it actually sounded good. In the shop, just rolling the throttle, it sounded good. I thought, well, hey, that sounded better than what it was, and it actually made an improvement because the jet block gasket was actually bad, as you saw. But once we got it to the track, it only mildly improved it. Once we actually started riding the bike, if you'd ride it and you'd hold it right about here, just a little bit of throttle, it just run. It didn't have quite that type sound of a good, clean running bike. And I was like, man, I gotta dig into this thing some more. What the heck? So I brought it home, and I know the reeds weren't old on the bike, but I said, well, I have a set of reeds from that YZ125 that I pulled out when it was almost new, the whole reed block when I went to V-Force 4. I threw that in this one just to see, you know. It didn't improve it. I was like, okay, it's not the reed block. What the heck is it? I mean, I did everything. I even pulled the pipe off of it, removed the power valve cover, put the pipe back on, revved the bike out, make sure the power valve was fully opening and doing what and fully closing. I checked all that. Everything was looking good. So then I said, well, before I start fooling with carburetor settings again and everything like that, let me take my YZ125's carburetor off, put it on her bike, and see what happens. I did that, and lo and behold, the bike ran like freaking new. It ran perfect. I was like, holy cow. So I was like, you know, I've seen this before in the four-stroke world where you can change out that atomizer that the needle slides into. I bet you that's the problem. So I looked into this carburetor. I was like, man, you can't change it on this carburetor. What the heck? I did a quick Google search, and some of the guys that do the road bike stuff where they use the two strokes on the road bikes, they seem to have this problem quite often for whatever reason. And they said the only fix is replacing the whole carburetor. I was like, yeah, I believe they're right. So we got a brand new carburetor right here. We're going to put it on, and that should do the trick. Now, I will say, even though the jet block gasket did make this bike sound in the shop like it was going to be good and okay, typically this bike is not quite as crisp running as that one, because that one has modifications done to it. Mainly it's the cylinder head. When you get the cylinder head squish band clearance good and tight and compression up a little bit higher, they're going to run a little bit cleaner and crisper. So I thought maybe this was close enough, best you can expect to run for stock. But no, I was wrong, because when I put that carburetor on this bike, it ran really good. Right here in the shop on the stand, I could hear the difference. I didn't even have to take it out and ride it. I knew right away that fixed the problem. So when we put this new carburetor on, I expect to hear the same thing. It's going to do good. And I'll even take it out in the backyard and do a little quick test ride on it, you know, what the heck. But, I mean, I should before I take it out, right? But I first checked Rocky Mountain. New carburetor, holy cow, $507. And says it ships in 5 to 7 days. But when I added to the cart, it was on back order. I was like, what the heck? I went to Partzilla, put it in the cart, it's on back order. I went to Motorsport, it's on back order. Carburetor's on back order. What are we going to do? We need a carburetor. So I went to eBay. Besides getting a used carburetor, I didn't want to go that route because, you know, you don't know how many hours on the bike. By the way, 317 hours in this one, 120 on that one. You don't know how many hours on the bike, so, you know, we're going to want a new carburetor. I found this right here, this carburetor. It says genuine Mikuni. All I did was type in the part number, the Yamaha part number. They want basically $369 for it. The beauty of this carburetor is it comes with the exact, see right there, the years it fits for the YZ125. It comes with the exact jets, needle, everything. I believe this is probably the exact carburetor Yamaha's buying from Mikuni to put on these bikes, or was buying when they were making these bikes. And it's pretty much plug and play. Obviously, I'm going to have to change a few things because I do run a little bit of a different setup on her bike than what it was stock. But another option we had was this one right over here. And this one sells for significantly cheaper, $189. And I was curious in it. Now, this one comes with a bag of jets instead. Let me see, where is it? Yeah, you can see the bag of jets right there. And basically, you buy this carburetor and you still have to set it up for your bike. And I don't know what slide it comes with. I know the YZ125 comes with a 4.0 slide, which this other one right here has. Let's go back down here and look at it. Slide, the 4.0. So I didn't know if this one comes with the 4.0 slide or not. And which means I would have had to use her slide, which is in good shape. That's okay. But I also question if it's authentic or not. I know they claim it is, and it says Mikuni made in Japan, but you never know nowadays, right? So I decided not to get this one because I don't have the time to, we're riding this weekend, we needed this carburetor. I don't have time to purchase this one, wait for it to come in just to find out it's actually a knockoff and send it back and then get the other one. So I opted out of this one. However, I will say I am still curious if that's an authentic one, because that's a great price, $189. I'm curious, the next time a bike comes through that needs a new carburetor, I will purchase this carburetor. And if it's not authentic, I'll send it back. But if it is, that's awesome. That's good news in case I ever need a carburetor. It's surely a lot cheaper than $400 or $500. But okay, let's pull this new carburetor out of the box and see what it looks like. I already opened it, but I haven't really pulled it out, right? So this will be the first time. Well, that's pretty cool. It comes in a nice Mikuni box. Got the receipt from the eBay purchase. All right. Turn the light on here so I see a little better. Like I said, I have to open up the carburetor still anyway. I want to check the float height, and I want to also put her pilot jet in it. Just check everything out, but let's pull these hoses down. Get them. There it is. Let's see. Looks legit. Looks like a good OEM carburetor to me. Awesome. Okay, well, let me go to the bike, pull off her carburetor, and I'll be right back. Okay, got her carburetor off the bike. Let me get something to point with here. I'll show you what wears out. Now, of course, I looked at the needle to see maybe just if the needle's worn, but I'm not seeing any wear on this needle at all. If you look up in here, let me point from this direction. That's the atomizer right there, and that's the hole in there that it wears out. It wears it ever so slightly oblong. It's really hard to see with the naked eye, especially because I can't get my eye up in there far enough to really get a close view at it. But when I did a close-up shot with my camera, a picture with my camera, and zoomed in on it real good, I could see it ever so slight elongated right here on this side, or at least that's, maybe my eyes were fooling me, maybe not. Whatever the case is, I know my carburetor made it run good, and I know that these, based on what the internet's telling me, these are known to wear out, and I've seen them wear out on 4-strokes before. Honestly, I've just never seen them wear out on our 2-stroke motocross bikes before. I will say, I am a motorcycle mechanic, a motocross mechanic. I primarily work on motocross track bikes. That's what most of my business is. And in that world, people typically don't keep a bike longer than 200 hours. A lot of the bikes are young bikes that are running around the track. So this bike has 320 hours on it, and or 317, I think. It might be 320 now, but whatever the case is, it has 300 something hours on it. And I don't run into bikes that have this many hours very often, so that's why this one threw me a curveball. No big deal. We'll get it straightened out. So first thing I need to do is get her pilot jet out of there. There's a few things I'll be reusing from this carburetor, but let me get the pilot jet. I know I'll definitely be reusing that because we use a 37.5 instead of the 40. Okay, get my flathead here. There we go. Let me go ahead and pull out the main too. I believe we're running stock main in this, but you know how memory is. Just want to be certain. Okay, got the main, got the pilot. Let me go ahead and pull out needle clip. Because even though they say that's got stock, I'm going to compare everything. Just want to be for sure. Okay, let me clean up my mess here. Okay, check twice, cut once, right? So there it is. If you can see it right there, that's a 4.0 slide. Put that over here. All right. Need a magnifying glass to read this. Let me read it real quick. All right, this one reads, I gotta use this thing to read it. Let me read it here. 6-speed FY 43/74, and it is in the center position on the needle clip, or third position. Well, this pilot's so old, I don't even know if I'm gonna be able to read it. Let me see if I can get it cleaned up. I mean, the main, yeah, the pilot. Let me see. Well, I can't read it at all. I tried and tried. It's just worn away from years of being in there, but that's all right. It is a 37.5 as far as I can remember. I believe I've been running that in both of them. How about this main jet here? It reads a 430 stock size. Okay. And of course, I'll be reusing my spring, or her spring, because we have the spring clipped short, about a coil and a half, for the quick twist throttle we have on it to make a lighter twist. Okay, for this carburetor, I'm just going to remove the whole bottom. I want to check the float bowl height and everything like that, and then I'll put in her pilot jet. I'll be able to keep the same main jet that's already in here because that's a 430. Let me get this off. I'll be right back. Okay, open up the brand new carburetor, nice and easy. Nice and shiny. Looks like they have a coating of oil. Yeah, they definitely got a coating of oil in here to keep everything from getting corroded. That's cool. Let me pull this off and check the float height. I just take a visual. I'm familiar with these carburetors. Yep, that seems to be right when it's pretty much about that edge, about flush, the same angle, parallel with that. Maybe sometimes a little bit further inward. Looking good. By the way, if you're interested in the innards of these carburetors and how to get around them, down in the description I'll have another set of links on my carburetor series if you're interested in that. But alright, let's continue on. Okay, let me pull out the pilot. Says it's a 40. Let me check the main, make sure it's definitely a 430. Yes, it is. I'll just leave that main in there since it's the same one we'll be using. Then plug in our old 37.5, which I'll order her a new one. We can't read the writing on it anymore. It's so old. Alright. Let me go ahead and put the float bowl back on. Okay, got the float bowl back on. Now let me go ahead and take the top of the carburetor off. Pull the throttle slide out. Want to check the needle there. Make sure it's the correct needle in the correct position. And I also need to put that easier spring in. As you can see, we cut off about a coil and a half on it. There we go. Look how nice and shiny that is up in there and brand new. That's awesome. Where's my 6mm? First, let me make sure the slide's a 4.0. Yes, it is. 4.0 slide. Alright. Where'd my little magnifying glass go? Here it is. I gotta use one of these things to read them. Alright, let's see. 6BFY 43-74. That's it. And it's in the center position, the third slot down, so she's right on. Drop that on in there. Tighten her up. There we go. Okay, it's time to go put the carburetor back on the bike. Let me position everything, clean up my mess, and we'll go do that. Oh, I almost forgot. Air screw adjustment. Wonder where this comes at stock. Let's see, let's count it. 1, 2, 2 1/4. All right. Set it to 2 1/2. That's what I typically run on her bike in the summer months. 1, 2 1/2. There we go. Okay, now let me go put it back on the bike. Brand spanking new carburetor. All right, let's fire her up. Well, she doesn't idle. I'll turn the idle up a little bit, make some adjustments, get her nice and warm, and then I'll be right back. Actually, let's take her for a test ride and I'll tune. I already got the idle tuned in, but I need to tune in the air screw just a little bit, I think. Let's see. I think that's it right there. Let's go see. Okie dokie, I got it all situated. I ended up putting the air screw at 2 3/4 of a turn. I think I'm gonna get a new pilot jet for it. That pilot jet's really old. Look, I couldn't even read it anymore, but it is a 37.5. She's running good, and I'll show you. So yeah, unfortunately it took a $400 carburetor to get it straightened out, but it is what it is. You know, that's what happens when a bike gets over 300 hours on it, I guess. But anyway, you know the routine now, hopefully. If it's running rich, start with the reeds if they're in good shape. Move on these TMX carburetors to the jet block gasket. If you did that and still running rich, you can't get it to clean up, and it mainly runs rich, not at full throttle. It runs fine at full throttle. It's more like when you just roll into it right about here. You just can't clean up that spot right there. And if that's the case, then you might just need a whole new carburetor, unfortunately. But I got it straightened out. Alright, so this weekend I will be riding Moto Bros Punta Gorda. I'm going to take out the YZ125 on this one. It's going to be a good day out there. I'm about to do a top end on her right now, freshen her up, and then go take her there and break her in and have a good time. Hope all you guys get a great weekend riding wherever you're at. Yeah, appreciate you watching this. Catch you next video.